I'm Brianna McHenry.
And I'm Stephanie Della Porta, and we are your guides for the When in Bloom podcast.
Join us weekly as we include tips, tricks, and alignment tools that support us on our personal journeys,
bringing you back to the knowing that you have all that you need within you to bloom. Wow, everyone. So this is our first episode, and we're actually recording this on Saturday, March 20th, and it is the spring equinox. How are you feeling, Brianna?
Hey, I'm feeling ready for spring.
I definitely feel like the energy is a lot lighter than it normally is, especially now that we're entering what's known as Earth season. I'm definitely feeling like there's going to be a lot more grounding needed, or maybe easier access to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Today I needed to take my shoes off and walk outside barefoot. Absolutely needed to.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there was like 10 minutes where I just stared at the sun and just kept my eyes closed.
Yeah. It was so
right
good.
to feel the rays. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was good.
Especially because of the reason why we decided to do this podcast. I want to say that it came out of nowhere, but I feel like since we met last year, we've had different little signs here and there. Do you remember when we were trying to figure out the name of the podcast? I ended up going through one of my journals because I have, I don't know, I don't want to say thousands or hundreds of journals, but I have a lot of journals and they're all hold for different things. And I had, I guess you could say, one of mine was a channeling journal. And I remember writing, I think it was on August 7th, 2020. It was a painting idea, like a visualization I received. And it was a woman with a garden inside of her with the heart, like the heart had flowers and there were trees behind her. And there was like source energy coming down from the sky. And then I didn't realize until we started designing our logo and I found the piece of paper again, that was pretty much the vision that I was given a long time ago. No, well, not a long time ago, not too long ago, but 2020 kind of seems, I don't know for you, but for me, it kind of seems like it was a while ago now.
Yeah, I feel like it went by really fast.
I know time is so funny now. Sometimes it doesn't seem so linear anymore. It's kind of just all over the place. I think, did that happen yesterday? Or did that happen, like 3 years ago? I don't even know anymore. Or is this something that's going to happen? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yep. I'm feeling the same exact way with time.
It's so interesting. Yes, I know. So then it was kind of cool how this all came together because I had connected with my guides and meditated, and it was in the shower, I think. And I said, I just had this crazy idea that we need to do a podcast together. And
yeah.
And then you said that you kind of received the same message.
Yeah. For like a few weeks earlier, I was just getting the message for like the past year, I've been getting the message to share my story and put everything that I'm learning out there. And basically just that it's going to help other people. And yeah, I wasn't sure how to do it. And I knew that I just felt a lot of resistance of doing a podcast on my own because I am really good at rambling. So I was like, who's going to want to listen to me ramble for like an hour? But yeah, it's definitely, I think it's going to be a really great space for other people who are on a similar path. To just hear from our experiences. Even now, I have a lot of people asking me like, hey, how do you connect with your spirit guides? And at this time last year, I didn't talk or connect to my spirit guides at all, or what I thought. And now they're like my best friends. Like I talk to them all of the time. And then we have people that will come to me and ask me about past lives and just experiencing everything. And it makes sense now after the past year of just everything that I've gone through. I really do have so much to share from my own personal experiences. And it's amazing to see how many people are going through the exact same thing.
I completely agree. And you definitely do have stuff to share because we message every day and we're always sharing things with each other. Every day we've got some sort of insight we've been given, or we had a dream that provided, guidance. Like it's always something. So I think it's really important for us to not just keep these to ourselves now, but to also share it with the world, because we end up helping each other when we share these things. So if we can help each other, imagine how many more people it can help. And I think that's what is really the foundation of this podcast, is planting those seeds of, you're not alone and you're powerful, and we can, we can help guide you as we learn, because we're still learning every day. It's always, we're still sprouting from those seeds. So it's getting there. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. That's so beautiful too, how when you were just saying that you're sprouting from the seeds, because then even after, the flower doesn't last forever. It's like that phase that you go through of being like fully bloomed and fully expressive. And then it's like, okay, time to go back in, time to go back to learning. And then here's another cycle for you.
Yes, so to go back into the fertile darkness, and then we'll see you again next spring. You're right. It's like, there's like this, it's almost like a yin and yang energy, that yin energy of, the very feminine state, retreating, going back into the earth. And then it's yang, where then you're sprouting forth and you're, you're blooming, and you want to be around people, and you want to, talk to people and share. So you're right. It's just, that's really what I think this podcast is really about, is just honoring those cycles within us.
Yeah.
Just like the flowers.
Yeah. Yep. The flowers are, and just nature is such a beautiful like example. Like if we can, I learn so much from nature all of the time. Like the other day I saw a deer, and as you know, deer are my like go-to animal. They're like one of my favorite friends to talk to. And so this deer was minding its own business, was so far away from me. But it was actually across the street from where I grew up, and it was in the yard of a house that I used to pretend a witch lived in. So it's kind of funny that like that's where the deer chose to be, because I was like, oh, it's a magical deer. Like, and then I was like, oh, this deer must have a message for me. And then I asked, and my ego was like, no, the deer is just like eating, like leave it alone. And then I heard, fully let go of your past in order to step into your future. And that your ego holds on to these things in your past to keep you small, because in your future, like you just have all of this room for expansion. But if you're always holding on and connecting to the past, you just can't grow, because you're always like dragging that from the past. So it's like just dragging you down.
I love that. And you're right. Nature has always been my biggest teacher. There's so many lessons within nature, because we are nature. I mean, physically, we're made of the same, elements, not only as the stars, but also as nature. So I think it's incredible. And I think it's one of the reasons why we chose to, the name that we did, to reflect that essence of ourselves, the physical essence that nature is such a big mirror. The earth is such a big mirror for us. And the cycles that Mother Earth goes through, so do we in our own way.
Yeah. And it's so comforting it was really comforting for me this past fall, because my grandmother passed away at the end of August. And it was just comforting seeing like a physical death, and then seeing the death of nature, and knowing that the reason why it's going through this cycle is so it can like come back and have another rebirth.
I love that. That's beautiful.
It's so funny how connected we are to nature. Last summer, I was obsessed with watching a sunflower bloom. Like literally, it would have like one petal open in the morning, and then the next day it would have like, or even just that afternoon, it would have two petals. And it was so gorgeous how quickly it bloomed open. And then after, the birds came and ate all the little seeds off of it.
Oh.
But so I really was taking the time to connect with just connect with the essence of it. And so I got this quote that I channeled from the Arcturians, which was really beautiful.
For those that don't know, can you explain who the Arcturians are really quickly?
So the Arcturians are a group of light beings that live just outside of the star Arcturus. And over the summer, I was really connected with them. And I was just kind of asking for guidance at the time. And so they said, Like a flower with the petals forever being closed, you slowly must open the petals one at a time. To open the flower this way, each petal opens by simply trusting and surrendering. Then, the more you trust and surrender, the more the flower opens, the more the flower blooms. And then within this flower is this never expansive knowledge.
That's incredible. And I love that you found this post that, or this message that you got after we chose this, after all of this.
Yeah. And reading that, literally, I have like chills and tears in my eyes because that's exactly what I was moving through last summer when it channeled through me. And at that time, trusting and surrendering was so hard for me. Like I couldn't do it. I just always had to be in control. And now, like, all I ever do is trust and surrender. So it's amazing to see how quickly it can shift. And then also just to see how, like, you really got to move through it and experience it on your own before you can fully embody it.
Well, I guess it's kind of like rain, right? Like you can either stay in the shade and hide under a tree and wait for it to pass, or you can go out and meet the rain and let it fall down on you and let it move through you because eventually it'll stop, right? And you'll have
Yeah.
that effect. So you'll be wet from the rain, which is, I guess, almost similar, symbolic of what you just said, where you're moving through it because you still feel that effect. You'll feel it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. And I love the rain too. Anytime it rains, we're always outside.
Yes. And now that it's spring, it's definitely raining for me today. So
Yeah, it's raining for me too. And we're going to go for a little walk later.
love
Walk
that.
by the beach.
Oh, I just love nature. I just so much. I mean, just so many lessons within her. You know, it's like, the sky reminds me I'm limitless. The stars teach me that I can still shine in darkness. The moon shows me, I'll go through many phases in this life, different versions of myself. The sea sings that I'm a powerful force and I don't need to ask permission to change direction or flow. The sun explains why I must scatter warmth and kindness to all those around me. Even the mountains whisper to stand strong against all weather. And of course, trees, they always encourage me to stay rooted, that I can still aim for the sky even if my feet are planted on the ground, which is kind of like a flower. Once again, going back to blooming, is that like, you're being planted and you're getting those nutrients from the earth herself, but you're also reaching towards the sky and you need the sun, you need all these different elements, you need the rain, you need the water. It's
Yeah.
everything just works in such perfect harmony.
I know.
And
That's
I
so
feel like the
beautiful.
world would be such a better place if we learned how to live harmoniously the way the earth does, to coexist together.
Yeah. I know. I totally agree. And it's so much easier too once you just kind of,
Like you said, like trust and surrender.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we'll definitely do another episode with that. And that actually segues perfectly into our next episode, where I think we're going to go a little bit deeper into resistance and what
Mm-hmm.
that looks like, for each of us, because it does show up differently. It shows up similarly and differently for both of us, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, did you want to talk about why we chose this name, When in Bloom?
Yeah.
Okay, so the name When in Bloom came to us a little bit after we tried to make a list of things that resonated with us. These letters finally, I want to say, dropped in or appeared to us, because that's pretty much what happened. They
Mhm.
definitely they just felt right, because it's almost as if we are each individual unique flowers, because no two flowers are ever the same. And we're planted in the earth with our roots going deep, making sure that we're grounded. And we go through these seasons. So sometimes, the winters can be a little bit harder. We retreat, we go inward. Then the fall comes, or sorry, the spring comes. And then like now, and we're starting to spring
Mhm.
forth. And there's certain times in our life that mirror the cycles of nature, because we're very cyclical beings. And we are also made of the earth, not just the stars. I mean, we're stardust, but we're made of the earth. We're in these physical bodies. So we go
Mhm.
through the same cycles and seasons as the earth does. And sometimes it's not always physical. A lot of the times it's the emotional seasons.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just perfect, because there's moments in your life where you just feel like you're in full bloom. Everything is working out. You're feeling powerful. You're in your power. You're feeling, everything just feels aligned and authentic. And it's those moments, I think we all strive towards and we all want more of. We want to be in bloom. We want to be happy and fulfilled and satisfied and at peace and joyful. So I think that well, I don't know about you, but for me, that was one of my intentions for choosing this name and with this podcast going forward was to share, the different tips and tricks and alignments that work for us and help us, to find that bloom within us because we have all the knowledge. Like you said, we have this sacred knowledge already within us. And instead of looking to other people for it, all we need to do is look within ourselves. We have it all within us. We're part of the earth and we're part of the stars and we have it all. So,
yeah. So I think for me, it's kind of funny because I know that like I had a lot of, like I gave you a lot of my insight on what I was thinking in the logo and then you totally created it. So for me, I feel like the name for me matches like the logo more so than like the words. Because it really feels like if you think of a flower, like you can have like a bulb or the root system. And for me, that lives in your heart, which is where your soul is. So that's like part of your soul. And for me, I'm really into deconditioning and deprogramming of the world. And if you think about a flower, you have to water it and feed it and nurture it in order for it to grow. And so if you are giving it like coffee, like it's not going to grow. So if you think about coffee as like these programming and like negative things that people are saying to you or making you think or believe about yourself, it's hard for you to grow. And then if you're giving it like water and fertilizer, you can think about that as things that your soul enjoys doing and that you're here. So like what you're here to really do. So when you're nurturing that root and that core and that heart soul essence is when you can fully begin to expand and just kind of connect with the consciousness that just simply is all around us. And then really feel like you're fully stepping into your power, which for me feels like in essence, you're fully blooming. Which is so funny too, because I am obsessed with watching flowers bloom. Anytime I buy flowers, I make sure that they're closed and then I like will stare at them and watch them every single day as they open. And I just feel like I can really relate to that feeling of like, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to be learning? And it's like when the flowers kind of close, it's like I'm learning something and I'm going within and I'm cultivating and just trying to embody it and move through it. And then as it starts to bloom, I can kind of pick up a lesson and then I can really fully embody it and just live from the soul and the heart.
I love that. That's beautiful. I resonate with everything you're saying. And you're right. It's because we can't always be in full bloom all the time. And that's what it is about honoring those seasons and those cycles where there's going to be, times where we're not going to feel at our best and, we're going to ebb and we're going to flow and there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows and it's to honor it all. And, and that's what I think is great about this podcast is that we're going to be able to share from our own personal experiences how to kind of get through those different seasons of the soul.
Yeah.
And I love that what you said, like you're right, because we have a garden within us and it's how we nurture it and we have to water it, based on what we consume with our thoughts and our, what we watch, what we hear. So it all really goes towards, are we nurturing that garden? Are we giving it that full sun or are we, or are we allowing it to wilt away? And I think that's so important too, because with the seasons of our soul as well, and mirroring the seasons of flowers, I mean, there's a dark period sometimes, right? Where they have to go into the fertile ground to grow. I mean, that fertile darkness is where the dreams begin to get sown, really. So it's actually pretty exciting. Like you said, like when you think of a flower and how it starts as one thing and it turns into something different. And then the season changes and it begins to withdraw again, goes back into the earth. And then, it comes back around. And it's just, it's kind of like really like us, I think. I mean, that's how I feel with my life. Sometimes, I feel like I'm in the winter of my life. Everything's dark and I'm just waiting for the seeds to sprout and I'm waiting for the dreams to to actualize. And then other moments it's like, oh wow, I'm blooming. Like everything's perfect. This is
I
amazing.
understand everything. Mm-hmm.
And, one isn't worse than the other. And that's the beauty of it, is that instead of looking at it as a negative or a positive, just embracing all of it. Like it's all needed to get to the bloom. Like that darkness is needed to get there, to plant those seeds. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's so powerful when you really can just fully surrender to the process of it
Oh,
all.
surrender. Oh, that's another episode for us.
I have so much about surrender. So good. It's my favorite. When I first started doing this intuitive work, was always my question was, how do I, like, I don't know, I'd be like, how do I open up my third eye? And it was almost always like, surrender, like trust it, lean in and trust. That's how you develop. Just let go. Let it go.
I love that.
Hi, friends. If you want to help us keep the conversation going, please join us in our When in Bloom family Facebook group. We'll make sure to leave a link in the show notes below.
I think I was telling you this too. Is that like my whole life, when I wanted to speak, no one wanted to hear me. And I would like try and be telling a story, and people would be making fun of the way that I told a story, or saying that like I took too long to tell it, or I would go off on too many tangents. So it's like I literally have spent the last 31 years being programmed and conditioned to believe that like I don't have anything of value to talk about, and that the way that I choose to speak is wrong. And so it's funny that like I can see that belief system coming back up, and like I can physically feel myself wanting to hold on to it, and then just like trying to move through it to let it go. And it's so crazy, but
No, I'm glad you shared that. I know what you mean. Similar for me, but more I would then talk louder. And I think that's why I became loud, because
oh,
and I've always been a very passionate person in all areas of my life. But I think that feeling like not being heard, or people not actually listening or thinking I have something worth it to say, I ended up, thinking that if I spoke louder, it wasn't a conscious thought. Like I thought, oh, if
yeah,
I speak louder, people are going to listen. It's just something, you're right, that just it just happened. It's like, well, then you'll have to hear me if I'm loud.
yeah.
So that's definitely something that I constantly have to work on, because I think, oh, you know what? I don't have to be loud. It's okay. Like, if I'm having fun and I'm in the moment, that's different, but I don't have to get my point across by yelling, or, raising my voice, or, trying to overpower a room with my voice, because I know my voice is powerful. If I need it, if I need to get someone's attention, all you have to do is raise your voice, and, people turn around and think, okay, what's going on? So it's actually, for me, it's learning to not speak as high. It's like learning to come down.
I love that. It's such a good.
And know that if someone wants to listen and they're receptive, they'll listen. And if they don't, then it's not worth my energy to begin with.
Yeah, this is a projector life.
Oh, hashtag projector life.
I also love when you were talking about that, you were putting your hands on your throat chakra.
Oh my gosh, was I?
Yeah, so it's like, I'm going to give you some extra help as I go through it.
Oh my God. You know that the throat chakra for me and you is where we have a lot of challenges. Especially, I know it comes up in my dreams too. When we do our episode about dreams, I'll definitely get into that, where I don't know about you, but I can't yell in my dreams. Like there's times in my dreams where I can't speak, like my voice doesn't come out and I'm in trouble, or like, and I just can't physically get my voice out. It's very interesting. But I think for us too, we talked about this, that in one of our readings about it being a past life, I definitely know I had a past life as a witch, accused of witchcraft and hung. So
absolutely.
Yeah, which is why sometimes I can't even wear like choker necklaces, like I have them and I love them, but I can't, I'll put it on for maybe like 10 minutes and then I'll start being like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Like what? It's too
Yeah,
close.
that's crazy. It's funny too because with my throat, I've been feeling like allergies. Like it feels almost like it's like
Oh,
it doesn't feel like it's like swollen or anything, but my throat feels weird. And it's definitely been happening more and more and like progressively more and more, like leading up to us chatting and recording this.
it's almost like your ego is saying, no, no,
Yeah, it's
don't
like,
talk,
no,
don't speak, stay
yeah,
safe,
yeah,
stay small.
stay small forever. Please everyone else.
Right? That we know the time has come to do the opposite of all that.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And we are safe, but we're not going to get hung and our throats aren't going to get swollen
No.
up. You know what? I did have a past life in Egypt where I was poisoned. And it's because
Wow.
I was like a jerk. No one liked me. But I was like an important person. I was sitting on like, it felt like I was sitting on a throne that was like high up over everyone. And then I like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I was poisoned in that life. And then I was
Oh
like,
no.
I think I like saw the person that did it too. And it was like my sister or something. It was someone like super, super close to me.
Wow. I know what you mean though. It's interesting that a lot of past lives, especially in this one where you have throat issues and issues speaking your truth and issues, of people healing hearing not hearing you, sorry. I've had stuff like that too. A lot of like where past lives have come up and it's, even drowning where you drown because it starts to go, you open your, you know what I mean? You open your
Yeah.
mouth and because you're trying to breathe and it goes in. So it's very interesting. A lot of it is connected to the throat.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because your throat is literally the communication center for all of your other chakras. So
Mm,
every thought that, like, whether it's from your solar plexus, everything that gets expressed, like your throat expresses all your 7 chakras. Like that's a lot of pressure.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, right? Because
That
it's
makes
got
so much
like
sense.
your security from your root chakra, your creativity, sexuality from your sacral, your confidence, your power from your solar plexus, you know what I mean? Your love from your heart, everything. If you think about it, everything is your throat expresses all 7 of your energy centers.
And
So it's a lot of pressure, which makes sense when people start to get ill. A lot of it starts with a sore throat. It starts with congestion in the throat because it's taken on so much pressure and so much stress from
yeah,
all these other energy centers that it like overloads, you
that
know?
makes a lot of sense. I mean, for me, I'm just so feeling like
Oh, I hear you.
so like for me to be able to put how my energy like feels into physical words is really hard for me. Like even sometimes when I'm doing readings, I just like have to completely get out of the way because I can't come up with the words myself. Like I need to allow someone else to do it through me. So that makes so much sense too, as having like all that pressure built up in your throat when like for me, I just can't figure. My Mercury is in Pisces.
Ha, my Mercury is in Scorpio. Like everything else.
Mhm.
No, I was gonna say you're very good at speaking. I'm ever since I had a reading with you, I thought you articulated everything really, really well.
Awesome. Thank you.
See, I'm the opposite. I am not good at speaking well, but I with my hands, whether it's writing or especially painting, I can express myself a lot easier, but speaking, I forget what I wanted to say, or it sounded really good in my head. So unless if I write it down, I can get, it sounds eloquent, it sounds beautiful and it's flowing and same with my art, but it's the minute I try to get it out of my mouth, it becomes an issue,
That makes
a challenge.
so much sense too, because if you think about where we like not, but like I don't know, like where you had to hide your religion. So like if you were pagan, you had to hide it and you'd had to
True.
find other ways to practice it by like
Oh, that's true.
dancing or painting, but they couldn't like verbalize it, you know?
That's
So
so
then they
true. Or
found,
cooking. Yeah. Like with your
yeah,
hand. Yes.
yeah, yep. So you find all these
Okay.
other ways to kind of do it.
You're right. That must be it.
Interesting.
I'm telling you, it's crazy how your previous lives, and we will do an episode on that, trickles into like it has so much to do, not that it needs to be the focus of this life, but it has a lot to do with this life and a lot of the lessons that you're still repeating and learning.
Yeah.
And the healing that needs to really happen in order to thrive in this life.
Yeah.
But we're thriving, right?
Interesting. We are
We're
thriving.
we're blooming roses. It's okay.
All right, so every week we want to end each episode by pulling an oracle card for some guidance on the week ahead, or simply sharing an affirmation to bring with you into the week for some additional support on the energies that might be coming up. And this week I've decided to pull an oracle card and give you my interpretation of that. And this week I pulled a card from Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light deck, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be real dramatic and just connect. Because I haven't meditated in like 17 days.
The connection's still there.
Yeah, it's funny because a card just fell out. It's funny because this card fell out as I was connecting, and as I was thinking, we don't even need to connect. Like, it's always there. The connecting process is kind of just for our ego. All right, so the card I pulled for this week is Align with Your Life. It says, what is not aligned or what needs to change? And I think that's a really great question, especially it's almost like this is the start of our journey. And that's when you really can think, what is it that I need to shift? What isn't serving me? And like, just where can I change things? And it's funny because you can make simple changes that have a huge impact. An example of removing something that's not aligning with me is for the past probably like 6 months, I've been getting called to remove my morning coffee. So instead of waking up and having a coffee, I can wake up and literally do anything else or have anything else. And recently, I've been really craving a green juice, and I've never had green juice ever. And it was about a year ago, my friend gave me a juicer so I could start juicing and seeing if I liked it. Because I also got this message last year, which I ignored. And so I ended up getting a green juice from a local bakery, and I was obsessed with it, like obsessed with it. And so now every morning, instead of having a cup of coffee, I have a green juice, and it just gives me so much energy for like the whole day. Like, I don't even need a coffee anymore. And when I do get a coffee, it's like really intentional and it's really satisfying, as opposed to before I'd be like, I'm just so tired, I'm gonna just drink a coffee. But that's a really good example of finding something that was misaligned. And the only thing that was showing me that it wasn't in alignment was me craving a green juice. And I just literally never had a green juice. Why would I crave it? I don't know what it tastes like. But it's so interesting and so funny how it happens that way.
I love that. And even just you talking about how that's the beginning kind of steps, really mirrors the fact that we just, entered the spring with the spring equinox. So it's very interesting that this is the beginning. This season is literally the beginning
And
of growing, right? Of growth. So visible growth anyways, because we're still growing under the surface. It's still happening, but it's visible growth. So, and it's learning, what doesn't align, I love that. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. And it's also the astrological new year, so it's so aligned.
Aries. Yes.
I love it.
Me too. All right. That's a great card for the weekly energy ahead. And then next week, we'll start talking about a little bit more about resistance. We did touch on it briefly today, but we'll go into it a little bit more because I know it's been coming up for me. And you've told me it's been coming up a lot for you.
So much for me.
Yes, in different and similar ways. So it'll be very interesting to kind of talk about how we're navigating it, individually, and what that looks like for us and what's helped us along the way. So thank you all for listening to our first episode. We can't wait to be back here next week, and we look forward to sharing and learning and healing with you all then.